Good morning, Greg here, burning both ends, burning on the front end. It's just about 6:30 a.m. Pacific time, May 9th. And just before we get into today's topic, I do want to talk about this awesome environment that I have to work in here, Albany, California. You can see the garage door is open, some fresh air coming in, the sun is up, the birds are chirping. I love it. And one of the things about this garage, so it's not climate controlled. And so when I first open the door into the garage, I get this whiff of kind of fresh air, even with the garage door closed. And I love the smell. And then I open the garage door and I get more of just nature coming in. And I love it. And it represents, I'd say, like metaphorically, me walking into this new life that I'm creating with this burn at both ends process. And it's this wonderful smell. And it really empowers me, and I really appreciate it. So today's topic is something called a CPR. CPR stands for Context, Purpose, Results, and what it is, it's a preparation method for just about anything. So writing a CPR, is a method to think through and prepare for almost anything in life. And this is commonly used to prepare for a meeting. But it can be used for anything, a long-term goal, a short-term goal, or anything in between. I can have a CPR for my life in 2018. I can have a CPR for what I'm going to do this week. I can have a CPR for what's the 15-minute routine I'm going to do in the morning to prepare myself for the day. I can have a CPR for a meeting with an entrepreneur that I'm going to have on Friday. So this is it's a great preparation method. And so what is this? Let me just define these three things, even though we all know what these mean, but as it relates to the CPR. So the context, this is the short phrase that is easy to remember and keeps the meeting on track, in the event that it goes sideways, because it's probably going to go sideways. And I know I want to value people's time. I want to stay on topic. I want to stay focused. And the context keeps me focused, keeps us focused in the meeting. And so it's this quick phrase that I can remember that just snaps us back to where we need to be. And just more on context, this is, the feeling in the room or the feeling of the meeting that is unspoken. Think back to elementary school teachers. This is an easy example. I had some teachers where I could not be 10 seconds late to class or I would get yelled at. I could not whisper something to a friend in class or I would get snapped at. Things like that. Very disciplined. Other teachers, not so disciplined. Different context. Some teachers, there was a mountain of work that was going to be handed out and you just better pay attention and get to work. Other teachers, not so much work. And these just create different context. So the next section is purpose. And the purpose is kind of clunky, the way that I split it up in this outline. And linked down below, by the way, is a CPR template, so you can check that out. It's a little clunky, but it's intentionally clunky, so that way I am sure to hit all the points. And I break it out in 4 pieces. And it goes to, and then there's the mission statement, by, and this is the critical action that's being taken in this meeting or in this thing you're doing, so that you get this critical result. And then you go, and with that, enable this big vision. And so it reads kind of clunky. It's got these 4 parts to it. It ends up being a very long sentence or a short paragraph, but that's fine. Because the critical thing about this CPR, this is not a literary work of art. This is a set of bullets and fragments. It does not have to be the finest grammar. It's getting ideas down so the thought process can begin about how we're going to attack this meeting or this year, if it's a CPR for a year, or this routine that I'm about to establish. And the whole goal of the CPR is that a work product falls out of it. So if it's a meeting for a CPR for a meeting, the work product is probably the agenda, right? So it's an actual tangible thing that I'm going to use in this meeting. So I'm writing a CPR for a meeting, and then I'm going to have an agenda. If it's a CPR for how I'm going to live in 2018, it might be, goals for each month or something like that. But it needs to be some workable thing that I can take action on. And also the CPR overall, it just makes sure that we're providing value, we're respecting people's time, things like that. And so back to the purpose, just real quick, to, mission statement, by critical action, so that critical result, and with that, enable big vision. And then the last section of the CPR are the results. It's a set of results. It's usually 3 to 10 results. If you have less than 3, maybe it's not worth having the meeting or doing the thing. If you have more than 10, you probably need to break it into several CPRs. And as far as writing the results, right, we're going to have team results, and they're all written in the past tense, and there's always evidence that we got them. And a very simple one for a meeting is we delegated actions with deadlines, as evidenced by I wrote down all the actions with people's names, and I wrote down dates for deadlines. I mean, it's pretty simple and straightforward. This is not rocket science. It's pretty simple, but that's the evidence. So the result was we delegated actions with deadlines, and the evidence is I now have a list, and maybe even say I have a list, I wrote it down, and I'm going to distribute it to the team. So that way everyone knows. That's always a great way to handle actions. Doesn't make sense if I write them down and keep them to myself, especially if other people's names are by different things. So, and then in addition to these team results, there's always at least one personal result. I'm always looking to grow myself, so I want to stick a personal result in there, something that I'm going to work on for me, for this meeting or for this thing that we're doing. It could be I'm going to practice and deliver our company's vision, as evidenced by me practicing for 3 hours or something like that. But a personal result is key. And as far as how I create the CPR is I start with the results first and I work backwards. I work up. And so I list the results, and then I go to the purpose. And then as I'm writing the purpose, I make sure that the purpose is supporting the results. And then once I finish the purpose, then I get to the context, and then I make sure that the context is supported by the purpose and the results. That's critical. That's the method. So we always start with the results, which when you think about it is kind of easy because you know why you're having this meeting and what you want to get out of it, or what I want to get out of it. And as I said before, there should be a work product of some sort should fall out of the CPR. If it's for a meeting, it's an agenda or a plan of some sort. And the critical thing here, and I mentioned it before, I'll mention it again because it's so important, is valuing people's time. This is a great method to make sure that we're valuing people's time. And one indication that maybe it's not worthwhile having a meeting if you're having a hard time coming up with the CPR. If I can't think of reasonable results that I'm like, wow, that is worth getting, then perhaps this is not worth having a meeting. And I think that's critical for meetings in general. I'm not sure how your office is. I've worked in many different businesses. I've done work for NASA. I've had my own businesses. I've worked in other people's businesses. And I've worked for NASA as a contractor, as an employee, as in many roles. And sometimes meetings, right, they go on calendar and all of a sudden it's weekly and there are no agendas, but there's this huge list of people showing up, and it's kind of a little head scratcher. It's like, well, why are these 10 people getting together? And then I noticed that a default agenda can be something called like, we'll just do a round table, meaning we'll go around the room and each person will talk about what they're working on and so on and so forth. And while there can be value there can also be a huge waste of time. I remember being in meetings where everyone's got a laptop open, and when it's person's turn to speak, everyone else is away, typing away, doing email. So are people really even listening? Do we really need to have this meeting? If there is not a powerful agenda, why am I showing up? Meetings are expensive. And if you're looking at, I don't know, $150 an hour per person and you got 10 people in the room, you're starting to rack up a lot of money, and those are soft costs in a business. It's not so easy to quantify those. I mean, it's easy to quantify them, but I guess what I'm saying is that I don't see that in a P&L. I don't see a line item. Meetings, this many meetings, this much time, this much dollars, and then this is the resulting revenue from those meetings. That would be an interesting metric to have. And so I'm a very big fan of very short meetings. I'm a big fan of calling off meetings when we all know what we're doing and we met last week and we all have, like 2 or 3 week deliverables on our plate, and I don't know why we need to get together. things like that. So this is just a great way to value people's time. And then I have an example CPR in my outline here, CPR for a business meeting, and I'll go through this, and I will go through it backwards, like I wrote it. So yeah, so this is a CPR for a business meeting. This is a very generic type of a thing, but this is a good example. So result number 1, we provided upfront value as evidenced by our research about the person or company and offering to provide help. Simple. So I know in the meeting at some point in time, whether it's me or one of my team members is going to talk about, hey, we're going to say something that shows that we researched their company and what they're up to, and then we're going to literally ask what we can do to help them. And it can be just that simple. Result number 2, we communicated the few critical ideas that created the meeting, as evidenced by telling stories that convey those ideas and watching the exciting discussion that followed. And so all this is that, we're essentially telling stories about why it is we're getting together and what brought us to this meeting. And we're going to see excitement in the person receiving this story. We listened to him or her or them and focused on absorbing as many details as possible, as evidenced by our eye contact with them and active listening to show our engagement. Very simple. Each member of our team exhibited positive energy and showed that we are a complementary team, as evidenced by the space we gave each other to deliver value during the meeting and how we supported each other during the meeting. So this is a result based around that we're showing up as a team. We're a strong team. We work well together. We are the type of team that you, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, want to work with. It doesn't make sense, in my opinion, to show up with a 3-person team and then 1 person talks. It's like, well, then what are these other 2 people doing? It shows a lack of value. It shows a lack of team. So with each person contributing in their own unique way, it really represents the team nicely. Result number 5, we documented actions and scheduled a follow-up, either with them or a referral, as evidenced by us talking out loud about actions and follow-ups and referrals and writing them down. Very simple, right? It's the magic question. Can you help me? Do you know someone that can help me? Sometimes a follow-up with that specific person doesn't make sense as a result of the meeting. If we told our stories and we asked them if we could provide help and value, and there was really no answer to that or no excitement around it, that's an indication that maybe there should not be a follow-up. And then the personal result, and this is just made up, but this is a good one. I delivered a concise and powerful version of our company's vision, as evidenced by the time I spent practicing and the meeting guest excited reaction to my delivery. So very simple. So there are my results, and I have 6. I have 5 team results, 1 personal, and then the purpose. 2, create a collaborative environment by creating a space to meet and discuss ideas so that we can learn about alignment and synergies, and with that figure out how we can take action together to build something that benefits both of our organizations and the world. Now that's a kind of a pretty vague, abstract purpose, but it's pretty good for a generic business meeting type of context. Now, if it's a business meeting with a specific company, we might refine that purpose a little bit to be specific to the goals of this collaboration or the mission statements of these 2 companies and why they would come together, things like that. The context. So I have 2 short phrases for this one in this example. What's in it for them? That's kind of an easy one. If we're talking and we're all talking about something silly or something that seems a little bit weird, and I just think, well, what's in it for them? I have a way to snap back to why we're here, to create that context. We end up talking about this guy's boat or something, or he's fixing his car and his transmission or something. And it's like, well, this is not really why we're here. It's like, well, what's in it for them? It's like, okay, well, there's a way for me to bring us back by just thinking about that. So my context for this is what's in it for them, and then there's another one that, are we providing value? Those are 2 simple short phrases I keep in my head that keeps us focused and on topic. And so that's the CPR. So it's a very powerful tool. It's intentionally a little bit clunky, but at the same time, it's supposed to be something that can be completed in 5 to 10 minutes. And if it takes a really long time, that should be an indication that maybe I'm trying to include too many ideas into it, or I'm not really ready to have this meeting. So that's kind of critical. And maybe I need to do some more homework or more research. So that's the CPR. So link down below, I have my outline for the talk. And then I also have just this very basic template for a CPR. So I hope that you find this useful. I find it very useful. Please also have a look down below. I've linked a bunch of motivational talks. If you like the beats you hear in the background, that's my alter ego G Money. I've been drumming for many years, and I write these drum songs for like drum sextets and quintets. And so if you dig that, check it out. There's a link down below. And please subscribe to the channel. I would love for you to follow me on this journey, have a journey of your own. Let's inspire each other. I think that's a big piece of this. And the other big piece of this is me being of service. So if there's a question, if there's any way I can help, I would love to. So please comment below. Tell me what you're working on. If there's something that I can do to help, I would love to. So y'all have a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you later.